welcome everybody. Thank you for coming to this follow-up Walkable Community Workshop. It's funded by the North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority, as we mentioned in the previous workshop. And it's being conducted by Rutgers with Sustainable Jersey. My name is Lisa Cintron. And just a few quick housekeeping points before we get started. If you could just keep your microphone muted, unless you have something you'd like to add to the conversation, it just helps with the background noise. You can also use the chat if you're uncomfortable unmuting and speaking up during the presentation. And as Anne just said, this presentation will be recorded. Let me just, sorry, I have my stuff in the way here. There we go. Okay, so here's the quick agenda for today. We're just gonna go over the background of this project quickly. We'll review what we did with the Walkable Community Workshop that was held back in July. We'll discuss some of the recommendations that we've put together from what you've suggested, and we'll talk quickly about the next steps. So just a quick recap. This project is funded, as I said earlier, by the North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority. And it is a partnership between Sustainable Jersey and the Voorhees Transportation Center. We're in the second year of this Complete Streets Technical Assistance, and we are currently helping 8 municipalities. Peter, did you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Sure, my name is Peter Bilton, and I work with the North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority. And we're the federally authorized metropolitan planning organization for Northern New Jersey. So that means that we help oversee federal spending on transportation projects, but we also sponsor planning studies such as this one.
Excellent. And then we have Anne Heasley from Sustainable Jersey.
Hi everybody, Anne Heasley, Sustainable Jersey, helping to facilitate this project. And Lisa, I did want to mention that Jason was able to, he just joined us, the mayor.
Oh, excellent. Welcome. Do you want to say a quick word?
No, I'm happy to join. Thanks for hosting again. Hi, Councilwoman Narveson. Thanks for leading this effort, and I'm looking forward to hearing everything.
Excellent. And then lastly, we have James Sinclair helping me out from the Voorhees Transportation Center. James, if you want to say hi real quick.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Glad to be here again.
All right. So if you all want to just quickly type your introductions into the chat, just say who you are, how you're affiliated with Dunellen. It would be great to have it in there. We're really tight on time though, so we probably will just let you all read it to yourselves as we go, I think, just so we can keep moving. So if you want to just type it in, your name, where you're from, and your affiliation with Dunellen. I'll give you a second before I move on. And if we would like to have a quick introduction from our county folks, I think we have Bruce McCracken, if you'd like to say a quick introduction. Do we have anyone else from the county who wants to say a quick hello? Or maybe from the TMA? Keep Middlesex moving. Oh, there you go, Bill. Do you want to say hi real quick?
Hi, real quick. This is Bill Neary. I'm the director of Keep Middlesex Moving, the TMA for Middlesex County.
Excellent, thanks. Right, and we have Bruce McCracken here from Middlesex County. I think that might be our only Middlesex County representative.
Correct.
Okay, so we conducted the walk audit back on July 13th. We walked the study corridor that you can see here on the map virtually. We collected feedback through the conversation we had during that meeting, and then also via the audit forms that were sent back to us. We actually received a total of 7 audit forms, and we put together the recommendations that came from these different forms of feedback into the recommendations that we'll discuss now. So in the next slides, it would be really great if we could have each of you give us your feedback. Let us know what you think, how you think these changes would help, or what you think might be better for these changes to help make walking safer in Dunellen. Okay, so here we're going to start with the overpass. So here's what it looks like right now. The overpass and the intersection just north of the overpass by Railroad Road and not South Avenue, Bound Brook Road. There you go. So here's what it looks like now. And we just have a few ideas that were discussed during the presentation, which included maybe putting a mural in the intersection to help stop cars from blocking the crosswalks there. Another opportunity, these are two murals from New Jersey, actually. The one on the left is in Red Bank. It's just a large sun inside a green background, which just signifies to drivers that they need to watch out for pedestrians and that they're passing through an intersection. And the one on the right is in Trenton, which was actually designed by a local artist and incorporates some of the history of Trenton. You can't really tell right now, but there are a few hands holding each other of different colors, and it's right in front of the Martin Luther King Elementary School. And then another suggestion for the overpass is to make it sort of a welcome to Dunellen's downtown. And here's an example of the George Street overpass. It has the Rutgers logo on it and just welcomes you into the Rutgers College Avenue campus. So that's one option for the overpass, including brightening it up. Does anyone have any feedback on what they think could work in the overpass or in that intersection there? Maybe some mural ideas or anything you think about these recommendations?
I think I just saw Diana Steris mentioned the cost associated with the mural. We are trying to work on mural programs underneath the bridges. It's the bureaucracy over at NJ Transit, but we do have a mural artist who's interested in helping us set that proposal up. And then, of course, the cost to do so. The biggest cost would be the bridge across, is because you have to rent that space. And we did look into that about 5 years ago, and it would cost about $36,000 to paint the space across the bridge with a welcome to Dunellen. So there is a resource matter there, but it's obviously a good idea. And if the time ever comes, hopefully we can afford to do that, because it would improve the bridges. I do agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder if the costs associated with that have changed, because they're doing it in more locations now. So I wonder how these townships are able to afford it, because $36,000 is a significant amount of money.
Is it $36,000 a year, or $36,000 for the life of the paint? I mean, do you know how long it'll last?
I was informed it was a year when we discussed it with Transit. I would say it's about 5 years ago. Of course, we can always revisit it to see what the costs are today. I'm sure there's other financial mechanisms that towns have in their downtown. But I just wanted to answer Diana's question because I saw it pop up.
Right. And in terms of the mural, I believe in Trenton, they came up with the funds with a grant. And I don't recall, Anne, do you recall how Red Bank came up with their funds?
They just did it. It didn't cost very much. That paint is very temporary. So I think if they were, as they're redoing that, maybe we could get an idea of the costs. But that was just a temporary demonstration project. So I think they just got inexpensive paint.
Right, and I think that's why they chose that design too, because it was paint that they had already. So they were able to minimize the cost that way. Okay. let's move on to the next intersection. So this is Madison Avenue and South Avenue, where people mentioned that there was an issue with cars lining up in more lanes than were actually there. And it's a pretty wide intersection. It's a really long crosswalk. So what we have here are painted curb extensions that shorten the crosswalk and allow for one lane of traffic turning on to Madison Avenue on the northern side, and then it expands to 2 lanes after that. This helps shorten the crosswalk for pedestrians and makes it a bit safer. Then on the other side, when you're crossing over South Avenue, it seems like there should be a crosswalk there where there isn't right now. And I know someone mentioned that they would like to see the yield markings painted on the road to help signify that the crosswalk is coming up. And I think that it might also be a good location for the rectangular rapid flashing beacons that just allow the pedestrian to push a button and it sets off a flashing light so that the cars that are coming understand that there's someone there and they need to stop for them. So do we have any questions? I think another important part here is that the lanes need to be really clearly marked. And if you do have 2 lanes of traffic on Madison Ave turning onto South Avenue, there should be a left turning lane and a right turning lane. It seems like cars are already lining up in that fashion, but it should be clearly marked. So do we have any comments on this pretty challenging high traffic intersection?
Hi, this is Wendy Fetzer. I'm just going to, if that goes down to 1 lane, that's going to put a lot of traffic in the middle of town. That's something that should be looked at if it's brought down to the 1 lane that it truly is, because there's just traffic very congested in the morning there.
Right. And so right now, is it actually only 1 lane on each side? When I was there, I couldn't really see markings.
As far as the road markings, it's 1 lane, but it's correct that, naturally people are making it a 2 lane, road basically.
Right.
Yeah, it would need to be painted as you have it here in this diagram, because right now there is no, as you said, there's no markings there whatsoever, but it is definitely 2 lanes in each direction according to the number of cars that pile up there.
Right. And the other thing I was thinking was that if there is going to be some sort of like remote drop-off location, like we discussed during the walk audit, we talked about putting it maybe at this Knights of Columbus that's right by this intersection, then we'd need to make sure that this intersection was really safe for children to cross. So I think the flashing beacons and the shortened crosswalks could really help make that a more safe intersection, especially for the kids. Do we have any other thoughts? And these.
Bill, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
There you go.
I can't seem to get my video up, but that's okay. I'm just questioning the crosswalk that's on the, well, it's in the screen there, right next to the figure of the pedestrian crossing. It's going across on the upper right side.
Yes.
Right. So anyway, off the screen is a crosswalk. You see where it says create curb extensions? If you take that toward Madison, that's where the crossing guard is, and it goes up South Madison there. The one that's illustrated that doesn't currently have markings goes to the Verizon building. Sorry, with the mute. If I don't mute it, then my office phone goes. I turn that off.
That's okay.
What do we need 2 crosswalks for? because it's a little bit dangerous. The cars come in from Grove Street onto South Avenue, and they would have to stop if they see the pedestrians, but there's another safer crosswalk in which the road is a little bit narrower at the bottom of the screen right off the page. And I think just for safety, why have two in almost the same location?
Right. So we're going to get to that intersection too. I have some ideas for that one as well. But so if you look at the New Jersey laws, any intersection creates a crosswalk, whether it's marked or not. So this is actually a crosswalk, even if it's not painted as a crosswalk, unless there's a sign saying no crossing here. So really, we have less crosswalks at this intersection than we should, because there should also be one on the other side of, on the southern side of this, to make a box there, if that makes sense.
No,
but I think that having this crosswalk here, especially with the rapid flashing beacons, makes both crosswalks even safer, because now you have traffic slowing at this spot as well as the other spot, because you come around this bend, and when I walked this corridor, they were coming around that bend really fast, and there were a lot of it was constant cars. So it could also help turning traffic as well if you have people stopping for pedestrians here.
Right, and wouldn't it be better to put a stop sign there?
See, I did put a recommendation that I didn't draw it on here, that this intersection may qualify for a light, but that would have to be, there would have to be a whole traffic study conducted to see if a light or a stop sign is needed, which it might be. And then you would have the crosswalk anyway. So.
Okay, I'm not really disagreeing. I just think painting in a second crosswalk implies permission to cross at that point, and that's a dangerous place to cross.
Okay. Understood. Do we have any other comments on this intersection? Oh, who would conduct the study and pay for the light? So this is a municipal roadway. So you would be working with your traffic engineer, and it would be municipally funded, if that makes sense. Okay, anything else on this intersection here?
There's just one more point I just want to make at that intersection. It's also a bus stop in the morning, which causes a lot of issues with people walking their kids and crossing over there when the bus is picking up these children. You know, everybody's supposed to stop and they don't stop, and kids are trying to walk over. So I don't know if that was looked at.
Where?
You know, why?
Where on the
bus? Well, I don't have the chart in front of me, but Madison and South Madison, right on that corner, by across from Verizon. I think it was a little cafe. Now it's a plumbing store. On that corner, a bus stop. Maybe I know one. I don't know if any more than one. You know, during the time kids are walking to school, blocking the whole area, you know, causing some issues in the morning.
Right, no, I wasn't aware of the bus stop there.
Yeah, a bunch of, you know, I don't know if they're middle school or high school kids wait in that area, and they're picked up each morning.
Right. I don't know if we have someone from the school on the call. If we do, it might be helpful to know if that's something that could be moved, or if
Dunellen is sorry for interrupting, it's a walking district. We don't have any school buses per se. So the busing is going to be it's either going to be busing kids out to different different schools, or it's going to be the county and state, New Jersey Transit buses.
Oh, right. So busing to private schools.
Right.
Yeah, it's school buses that I've seen in the morning there.
Right. Okay, well, I can look into that and see if there's some way that we can arrange it to be a little bit more conducive to the school buses as well. Do we have any other comments? If not, we'll head right along. I just wanted to show some examples of the curb extensions. They can either be a sidewalk that's fully extended, or you have an option to create a cheaper, more temporary curb extension to see how it works, to see if it works with the flow of traffic, and while you're looking for funding for a more permanent installation, you can hear some just ideas of how you can use paint to extend the curb. Okay, so now we're moving down to the next intersection. Again, here, similar curb extension to help shorten that crosswalk over South Avenue. There's also a realignment of the stop sign on South Madison Avenue, since a lot of the cars are pulling up into the crosswalk, almost up into the crosswalk anyway. This makes it a little bit more visible if they're pulling straight into if they're pulling in at a 90-degree angle instead of at that other angle. And there are a few considerations for South Madison Ave, including creating like the on-street sidewalk that you have on other roads like Lehigh Street. Alternatively, it could also be a bicycle lane, especially if you wanted to have that drop-off spot on at the Knights of Columbus. It would make it a little bit safer for kids trying to get to school. And then another important feature, again, is clearly marking the roadway and clearly lighting the crosswalks. So those are just little lights above the crosswalks so that at night it's just as safe as it is during the day. Do we have any comments on this intersection, how it is in this picture, before we talk about maybe a second option? Maybe.
Quick question.
Yes.
The green part that's labeled curb extension,
Yes.
okay, does that mean cars cannot go on that section?
Yes. So the curb extension, it can be painted on the street, and so theoretically a car could drive over it, but it would be an area that would be for pedestrians, not for cars.
Okay, so what happens in real life is that they're coming up from the left direction to the right direction, obviously. And the cars that are going to make a left on Madison and go under the railroad will get into the left lane, and the cars that are going to continue straight up south that turns into Grove will be on the right lane. And they're always there, and if you narrow it down to one, what'll happen is you'll get one and then a quick jut over to the right in front of the Verizon building, some left, some right. I'm just thinking that they're going to have to pay attention, the cars, if it's kind of narrowed down to a single lane at that point.
Yes, absolutely.
I think that's the purpose, is to make them have to pay attention.
Well, but many drivers don't pay attention, and their kids standing there waiting to cross, that kind of thing. And the kids will go into the green. I mean, I would go into the green. That's near my house. And I've many a time stood on that corner waiting for cars to pass by, looking left, looking right, looking left, looking right. If you're standing in the street as a pedestrian, it's a little riskier.
Oh, right. See here, we won't have them standing in the street. You can mark off this curb extension. Let me go back to this picture here. You see the white bollards? If it's painted on the street, you would have these bollards as well, which would mark off to the cars that they can't drive through this area. I mean, there are some places where they use bollards that bend so that they have, if they have a big truck volume and they have certain trucks that can't make a turn that tight, that they can pass over it. But for the most part, you can have it blocked off with bollards. So this isn't, we wouldn't have pedestrians waiting in a travel lane. This would minimize that lane to one lane, and then let it widen back out to 2 lanes as you approach Madison Avenue, if that makes sense.
Sure. No, it's safer. Just pointing out.
Right. It definitely does change the traffic flow for sure.
Yes.
Hey, this is James. I just wanted to point out that on the previous slide that Lisa was talking about, the other intersection, it had that same treatment. Not that one, the other.
Oh, this one.
Yeah, so just it also, she's proposing the same style of curb extensions there to make the crossing safer for pedestrians.
Now, we have another option for this intersection, which would include a bicycle lane, a 2-way bicycle path. If you had, I noticed when I was walking through Dunellen that there were a lot of people on bikes riding on every street. I saw at least 1 or 2 kids, some families. It was nice to see, but I don't know if that's a COVID type of scenario or what, but there is this option to install a 2-way bicycle lane here because it is a pretty wide roadway. I don't know if there's any preference for one design versus the other, but with the 2-way bicycle lane, you wouldn't be able to have the curb extension across South Avenue. Do we have any thoughts on maybe one design versus the other, or?
How far up would the bike lane go?
So our study corridor only looked to South or to Madison Avenue, but of course, if there's like a broader bicycle network plan for Dunellen, you could think about bringing it all the way through down South Avenue further. But we would also have the bicycle lanes on South Madison, and you can have the bicycle lanes pretty much all the way down to the elementary school.
Okay.
And again, these are options. We can include both in the report, and you can all move forward in with whatever mixture of things that work out for Dunellen, for whatever works best for Dunellen. Do we have any other thoughts on the bicycle lane, or? I can just show a quick layout of what the road would look like with the bicycle lane. So you would have the 2 directions of traffic on one side with the buffer between the traffic and the bikers, and then 11 feet of travel lane on either side, which is a decent width for a travel lane through a residential area.
But we also know with the bike lanes, just by having that, they'll slow traffic down. It's like it is a modified road diet. So, I mean, beyond the convenience part, it could slow the traffic down and still be safe. I mean, people won't be going the same way because there's bike lanes there. And of course, KMM here, we always say you build it, they'll come. So we support it completely.
Wonderful.
I agree. I like the idea of bike lanes. Dunellen actually just applied for a grant through the NJDOT for bike lanes. And I don't know specifically in this area, it was more or less sharrows, but of course that's something we can examine for future projects.
Okay, excellent. And then if we just want to look at the full intersection, this is what it would look like if the bike lane went the whole way. Yeah. It sounds like the bike lanes are popular. Okay, so let's take a look at South Madison Avenue. This is what it looks like right now. So you have really wide travel lanes in both directions. 14 feet is significant. And then you have 7 feet of parking, which is pretty standard. So we're suggesting that you can have, there's not quite enough room for a two-way bike lane, but you could have this like maybe mixed use on-street sidewalk or bike lane, and then narrow the traffic lanes down to about 10 feet each. Do we have any thoughts on this? You could also have a sharrow on the one side of the road where there isn't a bicycle lane. Oh, Tremaine, we can't hear you. Does anyone else, while Tremaine gets set up?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
And would that take away from parking on Madison on one side of the street there?
So there's no parking on the one side of the street as it is, I guess because the fire station is there. So this doesn't remove any parking here.
Oh, so this would be in front of the fire station side of South Madison.
Well, so the bicycle lane would be on the opposite side of the fire station. So the fire station would be on the side where there is parking, and I guess so that the fire trucks can get out, they don't have parking on the other side. Oh, sorry. There we go. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And there's a bicycle riding on this, but it could also be like an on-street sidewalk mixed use type of thing so that you can have kids walking to school, because right now the sidewalk along there is about 4 to 5 feet, which is just wide enough, is the minimum width, but not wide enough for like a group of kids to walk on their way to school together. Oh, and I see that we have some people who are not a fan of sharrows, unless we really do some education, and absolutely agree. The sharrows are definitely not something I think that a lot of parents would want their kids riding to and from school on. So the more we lean towards the bicycle lanes, the more you can really have kids riding in either direction. Okay, so if we don't have any other comments on this intersection or this roadway, we'll move on to, oh, sorry, we had one more comment. Oh yes, that the many kids do not let their kids walk, many parents don't let their kids walk to school because of the lack of safe space. This is one way to address it. Okay, so now the intersection of South Madison Avenue and Walnut. Again, we have the on-street sidewalk, bicycle lane, and then the sharrows on the other side of the street, as well as striping for no parking. It has to be 50 feet of no parking from the stop bars, and then 25 feet on the one area where we mentioned there was an issue with trucks parking, I guess, and blocking the intersection. I think this intersection may also need something more than just the stop signs in the roadway, such as like the rapid flashing beacons. Something more to just give traffic more visual cues that there are pedestrians here, especially since it's so close to the school. I know during the walk audit, we talked a little bit about maybe a raised crosswalk, which raised crosswalks are usually for a mid-block crossing, not at an intersection. But in Princeton, they do have like a whole intersection raised, but that's probably a pretty substantial cost. And so the rapid flashing beacon, you can even have flashing lights within the crosswalk itself, just these different visual cues. And then if we wanted to install a 4-way stop sign instead of just a 2-way, it would require a traffic study.
I have a question. Would a traffic study also be required to add a speed limit sign somewhere on Walnut as you're approaching Madison? We live right that second house in there from South Madison, and it doesn't seem like there's a lot of signage indicating that a school is coming or that people should start to slow down.
No, I don't remember where the nearest speed limit sign was, but I think that you're close enough to the school to have the signs that say you're within the school district.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I can't recall, Bill or Jason, I don't know if you guys know offhand, but I you know, we of course go that way every day, but I don't think there's one nearby.
No, we don't need a traffic study. We can talk to DPW about getting a sign made. You're asking for a 25-mile-per-hour speed limit sign?
Yeah, and maybe like school zone, something like that. Yep.
Yep, I'll note that down right now. Well, just email me your address.
Okay. Okay.
Shoot me a text.
Will do. Thanks, Jason.
Excellent. So any other comments on this intersection here?
Sorry, I appreciate the rapid flashing lights. We did put in for a grant for the bigger ones in some strategic areas around the transit, but I know there's smaller ones that are just like 1,000 or 2. So this is certainly an idea that we'll throw to our engineers as we start preparing to get South Madison paved. So I think, and they're significantly less than a traffic study, which can cost upward to, I think, 12,000. So
Yeah.
I like that idea.
Yeah, and I think they've been proven to be pretty effective. So, all right. So let's move on to High Street. So currently High Street has 2 different layouts. So in the northern section of High Street, you have the parking on both sides and a very large single direction travel lane that's 16 feet wide. And you have sidewalks just on one side of the roadway, and they're only about 4 feet wide, which isn't actually, the minimum is 5 feet in order to be ADA compliant. Then when you move a little further south, you have the on-street parking that's parallel on the left. You have about a 12-foot travel lane, and then the angled parking on the right with a little bit of a wider sidewalk. So we're suggesting for the northern section of the roadway to keep the parking on one side and minimize it to a 10-foot travel lane. And then you can have a bi-directional multi-use path. So you can paint it right onto the street, have bollards separating it from the travel lanes. And then you have this large, basically sidewalk area that you can paint. You can paint it so that it specifically shows which direction you should be traveling in when you're in that area. And it just gives, you're right, almost right in front of the school. So it just gives a lot more opportunities to walkers and bikers who are headed into that school area. So this is just for the northern section of the roadway. But then when you go a little bit further south, where you have that angled parking, so if you go a little bit further south where you have that angled parking, you can continue this path as well and have parallel parking on either side of the road rather than the angled parking. The problem with the angled parking that a lot of people mentioned was the backing up at the end of the day, which is a pretty dangerous situation for kids. So if we have this bike lane or this multi-use lane that has more kids walking and biking to school, then you wouldn't need so much parking at the school, hopefully. Yeah, so what do you think about the multi-use path and maybe getting rid of, it would get rid of about half of the angled parking spaces. So you would have to use this in combination with programming that gets more kids to walk and bike to school, combined with Bill Neary's suggestion to have an off-site drop-off location. So you've cut the parking in half, but you've provided all these other opportunities for kids to get to the school that don't involve driving. So then you've reduced the volume of traffic there. You've eliminated the backing up at the end of the school day, and you get more kids to school safely. So let's see. Oh, walk to school day is coming. Good. October 7th, but all the schools will be virtual. So they'll schedule it for another day, of course, right? And I guess how will this affect drop off? I think, as I mentioned, you'll have some people who will drive no matter what, but hopefully you have more kids walking and biking.
AMN will still be hosting a virtual walk to school day too. We'll be having a little contest about those type of things, walking. That'll be coming from our marketing department. I'll make sure everybody knows in Dunellen and you guys know about it, because I can't remember the details. Christina, following our office, had the whole plan worked out, explained it all to me, and I forget some of the stuff.
Nice, excellent. So walk to school day goes on. Any other thoughts about High Street? This is definitely probably the biggest change across the streets that are closer to the school. Do we have anyone who drives their kids to the school? Or Tremaine, you live right around in this area, right? What do you think about cutting the parking in half, but encouraging more biking and walking?
I don't really have an answer to that just yet. I think the parking, losing the parking for like karate in the park and for softball games and stuff might be an issue. But I'm not sure just yet. I don't think losing the parking would be a good idea right there. Especially if there's like a school day event and an after school event, like when hopefully things get back to normal, then parking would be pretty limited.
Right.
I'm not really sure. I would probably lean on Stacy on her input since her kids are school age.
Yeah, this is important feedback. And I do have a few options that wouldn't take away so much of the parking too. But Stacy, do you have any feedback?
I was going to say that there's a lot of parents that do drive or pick up their kids, and parking has always been an issue down at the elementary school, at least in the past couple of years that I've been there. I myself, I walk all the time, so it's not an issue for me, but I do know that there are a lot of, parents on the other side of town that tend to drive and pick up their kids, and I mean, some of them are there, 30 minutes before school lets out just to get a decent parking spot, which
oh, wow.
They could walk there and home by then, but maybe they're unable or weather, what have you. Losing the parking, as much as I like the idea of like the bike lanes and the extra lanes and the movement and stuff, I don't know about losing the parking though.
Right, I think it would have to be coupled with the off-site drop-off.
Yes. I was going to say, I don't have a child in the school anymore, but I certainly did. And I certainly have needed to be at the elementary school at 8:15 in the morning because I'm going to deliver a presentation at 8:30. And I will typically get there at 7:45 just so that I don't have to deal with, and I live in town, but just getting there is a big deal. It doesn't look like you're getting rid of all of the parking, but I also think that this is a culture change. I mean, we're really going to have to do a lot of education and awareness raising for the entire community to let them know about all of these things that we're doing to help improve safety for their kids so that they can get out and walk and bike. So, I mean, on one hand, I think the parking is important, but on the other hand, maybe it would just encourage more people to leave their car at home.
If they can't park there, maybe they don't want to drive their kids there.
Yeah. And this could also be like a long-term goal. Maybe you slowly move towards this by like maybe installing on-street sidewalks to narrow the road a little bit, and you have the bicycle lanes added at the other locations. And then eventually people will say, well, I can't ride my bike all the way to the school, and they might want this. So this might be something that you add later on rather than starting with, but we can definitely take all this feedback into account.
Incremental changes.
Exactly.
That's my motto ever since I've been on council. Incremental changes.
Exactly. This would be a culture shock if we just started right here. All right. Any other?
To widen the sidewalk, maybe take up some of the grass space behind the softball field that backs up to the parking spots? That area?
Oh, so widen the sidewalk so that it goes into the park there?
Yeah. I don't know, that's an idea.
It would probably be pretty expensive, I guess. Is it a municipal park there? I'm not sure. Yeah. So it is definitely an option. And then you still have to work out how to make the angled parking safer so that you don't have people backing up. But it doesn't address the northern section of High Street because you can't go further into people's yards with the sidewalk. But it could be an option for the southern section if that was something the town was interested in doing.
Lisa, I have one other comment.
Yes.
Okay, this is just something from the first slide, original about the painting the overpass at the trains.
Yeah.
Mayor, maybe you and I could schedule a meeting with the marketing department at New Jersey Transit and have them take the train from Dunellen, okay, as part of the advertising for them. That could be also take care of the Dunellen part of the painting. So just a suggestion. Maybe I'll try to get an appointment with the marketing people, New Jersey Transit, and see if they're interested in that.
Love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll get in touch with them and you and see what we can make some kind of arrangements. Probably a virtual meeting with New Jersey Transit, or we'll stand on the bus next to them and breathe right in their face.
That sounds like a good idea. And so Jessica had a point. She asked if we could do temporary changes that are not permanent that allow us to test out. I think that's an excellent idea. So there's all different ways that you can do this sort of tactical urbanism where you put in these temporary changes. You just use cones, just movable cheap cones, and you just test it out. What happens if we take away half of this parking here with some parking cones and allow the kids to ride to and from, although it's a little challenging right now because people aren't really going to the schools in the volumes that they were before. But yeah, testing it out temporarily is a great way to get people to see how it would actually flow and how it would actually affect the way they move to and from school and the area. So very good point, Jessica. All right, anything else on this section? Okay, so Anne, do you want to take over the next steps?
Yes, so thank you everyone for joining us again today. And the next steps are we have set up, I'll be sending out an email, and we've set up a little questionnaire where you can submit your comments about today's presentation. So the email will have links, and we're giving you a week to do that. And you can also share this presentation with others who weren't able to join us today. There were definitely people that were on the first workshop, and I will be sending out to everyone that weren't able to join us today. And then the next thing would be that we will pull this all together into one of those draft reports like you saw in the beginning of the presentation that Lisa shared. And we will be circulating that to the Dunellen Complete Streets team and getting their comment on that draft report sometime towards the end of September. So any other questions or comments before we log off today? We really appreciate you coming on and staying with us today.
I just wanted to say thanks for all the suggestions. There's a lot to think about, and I'm really excited about it. So thank you to you guys.
Great, thank you.
Yes, thank you all for participating and for giving us your great feedback. All right.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close out the meeting, but do look for an email from me that will give you links to the presentation and how to provide comments on it and sharing it with others. Okay, have a great rest of the day and a good week, everyone. Take care.
Take care.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.